Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here for the public hearing for the Consolidated Plan and Annual Action Plan for 2025 through 2029. We have our consultants here with us from M&L, and they're going to be leading the presentation with us, and there will be opportunity for public comment in the end. So we'll just go ahead and get started with the presentation. Thank you.
And if you'd like to do some introductions, starting with Jada.
Yes.
I know they probably know who you are, but
Yes. So I'm Jada Richardson. I'm the Deputy Director of Housing Services here at the City of York, and I have my team here with me. Go ahead, Susan.
I'm Susan Barcelo. I'm Office Coordinator.
Oh,
Susan
microphone.
Barcelo. I'm the Office Coordinator for the Bureau of Housing.
That's muted now. The red light should be on.
My name is Susan Barcelo, and I'm the Office Coordinator for DECD.
Tammy Harvey Bethay, and I am the Program Funding Analyst and a little bit more. We got a lot of hats here because we're only three. So, so we're Bureau of Housing Services. Thanks for coming out.
this would be for the time period that's going to start as of January 2025, December 31st, 2029. And the Consolidated Plan and Annual Action Plan process, there's a process of creating the document through stakeholder consultation. Those consultations were held back in early June, and those were held with all interested parties, local government, public and private agencies, housing authority, et cetera. There was also a housing market analysis that was quantifiable data using the American Community Survey 5-year estimates that are available through the U.S. Census, census.gov website. There was also a housing and homeless needs assessment, same thing, using that quantifiable data. We also combine it with the stakeholder input and the citizen participation to develop that section as well as the market analysis. And then based on those, that data and the input from the public and the stakeholders, you create the strategic plan, which outlines what the priorities are for 2025 through 2029. And then the consolidated plan is all of that put together, including the annual action plan, which has the proposed activities for 2025. And the 5-year consolidated plan is required for the City of York to continue to be eligible and receive the annual allotment of Community Development Block Grant and Home Investment Partnerships Program funding from HUD. These are entitlement programs, which as long as the federal government and HUD continues to fund them at that level, then the City of York will continue to receive them. It includes this consolidated plan includes an analysis of the current conditions, your housing and economic conditions in the city, and also through that consultation with stakeholders and the public to establish those priority housing and community development needs. And then the strategic plan is specifically detailing and outlining the goals and objectives to meet those priority needs that were identified, and meeting those priority needs through the investment of the CDBG and home funds. And as said, this covers the period from fiscal year 2025 through 2029, which is January through December. And CDBG, the Community Development Block Grant, is one of the most flexible grant programs that HUD has. It can be used for a lot of housing community development needs, including housing rehabilitation, homeownership assistance, public facilities and improvements, blight removal, code enforcement, economic development, acquisition and disposition of real property, as well as public services. For CDBG, all activities have to meet a national objective, and these are the 3 national objectives that it can meet. Is benefiting low and moderate income persons. HUD has a requirement that at least 70% of all the grant funds for CDBG are used. It can also be used to prevent or eliminate blight. So those would be like your clearance demolition activities as well. And it can be used to meet an urgent need when health and welfare are threatened. So that's usually when there's an actual disaster. For example, the COVID-19 funding uh, that came around. It was built on the CDBG program, but it was additional funding. And then the ways that you can meet that low moderate income benefit is through an area benefit using the census data from the American Community Survey, which will establish what the eligible census tracts and block groups are, where at least 51% of the people that reside, according to their estimates, are low or moderate income. There's also direct services where individuals are served, and those programs will do income intake, and they'll do actual eligibility and gather income documentation to verify that the individual or family is eligible for the program. And for the low and moderate income, it's anyone that is at or below 80% of the area median income, adjusted for household size. So this table that's on the right has some information as far as what that looks like as far as income levels for 80% of the area median income. HUD does establish these on an annual basis, so these can adjust annually. And there's also presumed benefits. So if an activity is undertaken that's going to serve a group that HUD considers to be low income, then you don't have to do the area benefit. You're not getting census tract block group information. You're not doing income intake, but it has to exclusively serve people that belong to one of these groups, and that's either abused children, battered spouses, so like domestic violence victim services would qualify. Persons that are elderly, disabled persons, persons that are homeless, adults that are illiterate, migrant farm workers, and persons that are living with AIDS. And that's under the presumed benefit. And then for the Home Investment Partnership Program, home program is specifically for housing. So it can't be used for public services or community development like infrastructure needs, but these are the eligible activities: housing rehabilitation, homeownership assistance, new construction of affordable housing, and tenant-based rental assistance. Now, that's one of the differences between the CDBG housing activities and the home housing activities is CDBG funds cannot be used to construct new housing, whereas home funds can be. And but you can still create affordable housing through CDBG with an acquisition and rehab type activity. You just can't build brand new. And all of the consultations and the state with the stakeholders, there was a survey that was conducted as well, citizen participation and the quantifiable data. These are the consolidated plan goals that were established for this 5-year period. Two involving housing was creating new affordable housing and improving access to and quality of housing. There's improving public services, improving the public facilities and infrastructure. The Section 108 loan repayment, as well as the one at the bottom, planning administration, those are things HUD requires that in order for something to be funded, it has to appear in your consolidated plan as a goal. The Section 108 loan repayment is for a project that was done a few years ago. And so future funds are committed to the repayment of that loan back to HUD until it's been paid in full. And then planning administration is up to 20% of the funds on an annual basis can be used to support the actual administration and costs. So the city doesn't have to use their own funds in order to hire staff to implement these programs. And there's also code enforcement was the other consolidated plan goal, and that's something based on the information on the housing stock, as well as the stakeholder and citizen input, based on the quality of housing and the fact that it can be improved through code enforcement activities. And now this is the 2025 annual action plan, and these are the goals that were established based on where basically for the 2025 year, the projects that will move forward are going to meet these goals that were created in that plan. And these are the amounts that are going to be associated with those goals, including creating affordable housing, both CDBG and home will be used, and the outcome is expected to benefit 35 households. Improving access and quality of affordable housing, those would be the housing rehabilitation activities. 30 households are expected, as well as improving public services, improving public facilities and infrastructure. The Section 108 loan repayment, you see that there, and then at the very bottom, you see planning administration. And admin funds for CDBG is 20%, for home, it's 10% that can be set aside for admin. And then code enforcement, we have 200,000 to support the code enforcement activities. That is expected to, help to improve the quality of at least 1,200 homes. And the amounts that are available, those are at the top. And these are projects that were, discussed. These were projects that were established with your 2024 through 2026 three-year funding plan that was established back in 2024. And for the most part, these are the same projects, but these may be adjusted in the future depending on the needs of the community, as well as any new applications that may come in from any other service providers that have a need for these funds. And these are the funding amounts for each of them. Sorry. So for CDBG, you see the rehabilitation programs, code enforcement, public works improvement. We have a little over 300,000 set aside for that. Home buyer activities, literacy council, which is an education program, and then LifePath and CASA. Those are also public service activities. And then for the home program, the down payment assistance program helps with homeownership. The CHODO set aside is a mandatory. HUD requires that a minimum 15% of the annual home allocation is set aside for a CHODO activity, which is a specific type of nonprofit that would be, their purpose is to create and as well as manage affordable housing. And then the Hudson Park Towers is a project that will be funded. This is an application for low-income housing tax credit, which was awarded within the city. So these are funds that can help bridge that gap to make that project possible. And then home administration is that 10% set aside. And just to note, the funding amounts that are established in this is based on estimates based on the 2024 allocation. HUD will announce the actual allocation after the 2025 federal budget has been approved. And that can vary from year to year depending on when the government, makes that decision. And then additionally, in addition to the Consolidated Plan, Annual Action Plan, this is part of the processes. As part of this 5-year process, we took a look at the Citizen Participation Plan and just made sure that it was updated to meet the standards that HUD has for this. The most recent Citizen Participation Plan was done in 2007. So there's been new guidance, and we wanted to make sure that was up to date. And that plan is basically, it outlines the responsibilities to the public and encourage participation in this planning. So that's what you're currently participating in this public hearing. That's part of the citizen participation process. And because there's going to be amendments to make those changes to the citizen participation plan, we're also soliciting public comments for the planning reporting documents for all these programs, including the Consolidated Plan, the Annual Action Plan, if there are any plan amendments, analysis of impediments to fair housing choice, and the Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report, which is the CAPER report. So all of these documents, as Jada and her team work through these documents, there's always going to be an opportunity for the public to provide public comment, either through an actual public hearing like we're having tonight, or through oral and written comments. And then it's being the amendments to the citizen participation plan requires that public notice and comments on the proposed updates, and those comments will also be accepted through November 11th. And then at this time, if there's anyone in the audience that would like to provide public comments on the plan, or if you have any questions, understand that this is part of the process, and we want to make sure that you have an opportunity to be heard.
The floor is open.
Wilford Bentley with Tenfold Community Lending. I think we need to identify ourselves. So in the plan and doing the data that you actually constructed, I see that there is a possible component for repair of current structures. Was that part of what I saw in the CBDG portion?
Yes, that's a owner occupied housing repair program.
Right. So has there been a party identified to do that? Or are you doing that?
So the priority,
So the county is doing that? Okay. A couple of questions. One, I thought that the set aside for administration was going up to 15% in the next fiscal year on de minimis administration rather than 10%. I thought 10% was the old rule. Am I incorrect in that?
so 10% is the home rule, but they did something different for the home ARP, which they allowed up to 15%. I haven't heard where they're planning on that for the regular home funds that the county receives on an annual basis. And the 20% is CDBG. And then 10% has always been home.
Right.
But for home ARP, they did, because home ARP just has a couple of special characteristics to it, where that is a 15% set aside, which that's a separate basically special pot of money that is home funds that are specific to homeless activities that the city received a one-time allocation of. And then once it's been used, it's not renewable.
So let me make these comments and then I'll have my seat. First off, this is an excellent process in which to elicit both comments and gathering the plan. It is important that the city has enough funds to be able to support the stabilization of its neighborhoods, to be able to empower its citizens in order to become homeowners and possible future taxpayers, and to actually address a number of other societal issues can be accomplished by both the literacy programs as well as the programs towards getting to home ownership, as well as the repair of the current stock. As we all know, the age of the current stock is such that repairing a home is much easier and much cheaper than actually building new housing and also providing housing for the current residents. It will lead to a greater stabilized city that has a populace that is on the path for greater wealth building, which will lead to a more vibrant community. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Great comments.
Thank you.
Joyce Santiago, Affordable Housing Advocates and also city resident. But just wanted to know, when will the updated revised applications come out for? Yeah.
There is a current version of the application, I believe, available on our website, but our funding round was actually last year.
I'm meaning for like this 25 to 29 period. Like, will you do one inclusive application or? Okay, yep.
Yeah, so in 2026, we'll accept applications for the next 3 years.
We did the 3-year already.
Yeah, but she's asking when the next one is, so in 2026, the year 2026 is when we'll accept applications for the next 3-year period.
Okay, yeah, mine was a simple question. Thank you.
Good job, all of them.
Yeah.
Well, if there are no other comments, I will say that the draft plan will be on display in our office starting on Thursday. Is Thursday the 10th? Yes. Yeah, on Thursday. So you can come take a look at that, or you can reach out to us to get a digital copy of it and we can share it with you all. And as Donna discussed in the presentation, we're working on our analysis of impediments. And so there will be more information coming out around the stakeholder sessions for that. And we'd be very happy to have you participate in those discussions as well. Otherwise, thank you all for being here, for joining us this evening, and we look forward to continuing to work with you all.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Donna and Srinath. I think that is good.
And
Oh, sorry, there was another page.
sorry, I always forget that there's always another page. So these are just as Jay just said, the next steps, October 11th through November 11th. Is when the draft plan will be on display and comments will be accepted through November 11th. October 8th is today, the final public hearing. In December is when it's expected the city council will review and approve the consolidated plan, annual action plan, and the citizen participation plan. And then it'll wait until HUD announces that allocation for 2025, and then it'll be submitted to HUD for their approval. But officially, January 1st is still the plan year start. So even if it's a little bit late where the funding comes after the start of the plan year, funding can be used retroactively to January 1st. And then this is Jada's information for anyone that wants to submit any either oral or written comments, then you can submit it to this information.
Indeed. All right, thank you. Now you can go.
Thank
Have a
you.
good night.